Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Verse 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti Bhagavata Prushta Kshatra Varta Priyashrayam Prativaktu na Chotseha Okantya Tasmatireshvara.
Sri Sukha Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhava was asked by Vidura to speak on the message of the dearest Lord, Krishna, Uddhava was unable to answer immediately due to his excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord.
Verse 2. Yapachahayano matra pratarashaya yachita tanne chadra chayan yasya saparya balalilaya.
He was one who, even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in the service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it.
Verse 3. Sa katham sevaya tasya kalena jarasam gatah prushto varta buryat padanavanuSmaran.
Uddhava thus served the Lord continually from childhood, and in his old age that attitude of service never slackened. As soon as he was asked about the message of the Lord, he at once remembered all about him.
Verse 4. Sa muhurtam bhushni butrushni krishnagri sudaya brusham tivrena bhakti yogena nimagna sadhu nirvrita.
For a moment he remained dead silent, and as his body did not move, he became absorbed in the nectar of remembering the Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy, and he appeared to be going increasingly deeper into that ecstasy.
Verse 5. Pulakodi binna sarvango muchan niladrudasha suchah purnatho laksitastena sneha prasara samplutah.
It was so observed by Vidura that Uddhava had all the transcendental bodily changes due to total ecstasy, and he was trying to wipe away tears of separation from his eyes. Thus Vidura could understand that Uddhava had completely assimilated extensive love for the Lord.
Verse 6. Shainake bhargavaloka kranu lokam punaragatah vrimrujya netre viduram prityahodava utsmayan.
The great devotee Uddhava soon came back from the abode of the Lord to the human plane, and wiping his eyes, he awakened his reminiscence of the past and spoke to Vidura in a pleasing mood.
Verse 7. Uddhava uvacha Krishna drumani nimloche gishneva jagarneha kimna nunam kushalam bruya gata shri shrugruheshvaham.
Sri Uddhava said, my dear Vidura, the sun of the world, Lord Krishna, has set, and our house has now been swallowed by the great snake of time. What can I say to you about our welfare?
Verse 8. Durbhago batalokoyam yadavo nitaramapi ye samvatsano navidur harimina ivodupum.
This universe, with all its planets, is most unfortunate, and even more unfortunate are the members of the Yadu dynasty because they could not identify Lord Hari as the personality of Godhead any more than a fish could identify the moon.
Verse 9. इंगिताज्ञापूरप्रौढा एका रामश्च सात्वतः स्वास्वता मृषं सर्वे भूता वा सममंसत.
The Yadus were all experienced devotees, learned and expert in psychic study. Over and above this, they were always with the Lord in all kinds of relaxations, and still they were only able to know him as the one supreme who dwells everywhere.
Verse 10. देवस्य मायया स्पृष्टा ये चान्यदसदाश्रिताः भ्राम्यते धिनर्तद्या करेयात्मुनाप्नतो हरो.
Under no circumstance can the words of persons bewildered by illusory energy of the Lord deviate the intelligence of those who are completely surrendered souls.
Verse 11. प्रदर्शर्यात्प्राप्ततापसम् अविप्रुक्ता दशं नृणाम् आदयान्तरदादस्तु स्वविलम्बं लोकलोचनम्.
Lord Sri Krishna, who manifested his eternal form before the vision of all on the earth, performed his disappearance by removing his form from the sight of those who are unable to see him as he is, due to not executing required penance.
Verse 12. यन्मर्त्यलीलोपैकं स्वयोग मायाबलं दर्शयता गृहीतं विस्मापनं स्वस्य च सौपदुर्गे परं पुदं भूषणभूषणाङ्गम्.
The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yogamaya. He came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastimes. These pastimes were wonderful for everyone, even for those proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, his, Sri Krishna's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments.
Verse 13. यद्धर्मसूनोर्बतराजसूये निरक्षदक्स्वस्वयतनं त्रिलोकः कात्स्येन चादेहगतं विधातु सर्वाकृसतो कौशलमेत्यमन्यत्.
All the demigods from the upper, lower, and middle universal planetary systems assembled at the altar of the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthira. After seeing the beautiful bodily features of Lord Krishna, they all contemplate that he was the ultimate dexterous creation of Brahma, the creator of human beings.
Verse 14. यस्यानुराग प्लुतहासरास लीलावलोका प्रतिलब्धमानः व्रज स्त्रियो दिग्भरनो प्रवृत धियो वयस्थुं किल कृत्य शेषः.
The damsels of Raja, after pastimes of laughter, humor, and exchanges of glances, were anguished when Krishna left them. They used to follow him with their eyes, and thus they sat down with stunned intelligence and could not finish their household duties.
Verse 15. स्वशान्तरूपेष्वतिरो स्वरूपै रव्यर्धमानेष्वनुकम्पितात्मा परावरेशो मदहंसयुक्तो ध्यायोजिपीता जातो भगवान् यथाग्निः.
The personality of Godhead, the all-compassionate controller of both the spiritual and material creations, is unborn, but when there is friction between his peaceful devotees and persons who are in the material modes of nature. He takes birth just like fire, accompanied by the Mahatattva.
Verse 16. Makhedayasye tadajasya janma vidambanam yuddha sudeva gehe vruje cha vaso ribhya divasvayam purada vyavastha didanta viryah.
When I think of Lord Krishna, how he was born in the prison of Vasudeva, although he is unborn, he went away from his father's protection of Vraja and lived there incognito out of fear of the enemy, and how, although unlimitedly powerful, he fled from Mathura in fear. All these bewildering incidents give me distress.
Verse 17. Dunoti cheta smareto mametat yadaha padavapi vandya pitro patamb kansa durashaktingan saktitanam prasidatam ne krutanish.
Lord Krishna begged pardon from his parents for their Krishna and Balaram's inability to serve their feet due to being away from home because of great fear of Kamsa. He said, "O mother, O father, please excuse us for this inability. All this behavior of the Lord gives me pain at heart."
Verse 18. Ova amusha drikasarojrenu vismartumishita puman vrijigran ye visputa barada bruvita pine bhume bharam krutante na tiraskara.
Who, after smelling the dust of the lotus feet even once, could ever forget it? Simply by expanding the leaves of his eyebrows, Krishna has given the death blow to those who were burdening the earth.
Verse 19. Drashta bivardhir nanuraj suye chaidasya krishnan dvijitopi siddhi yam yoginam samspriyanti samyak yogena kastadviram sahet.
You have personally seen how the king of Chedi, Shishupala, achieved success in yoga practice. Although he hated Lord Krishna, even the actual yogis aspire after such success with great interest by performance of their various practices. Who can tolerate separation from him?
Verse 20. Tatheva chanye naralokavira ya ahave krishna mukharavindam naitrei pibanto nayanabhiramam parthasthaputa padmapurasya.
Certainly others who were fighters on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were purified by the onslaught of Arjuna's arrows, and while seeing the lotus-like face of Krishna, so pleasing to the eye, they achieved the abode of the Lord.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my apologies if I made any mispronunciation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my apologies for any errors. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. That was beautiful recitations by both of you, Prabhuji and Mataji. Is absolutely wonderful. So are we okay to start, Mataji? I'm going to do some introductions.
Yes, please, Mataji, go ahead. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the beautiful recitations. So today we are going to look into verses 8 to 11. So before we do that, should we just start our Mangalacharan prayers and then invoke Bhagavatam? ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगणा ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासा आदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। जय श्री कृष्ण। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। जय श्री कृष्ण। So today's chapter is very nice. This chapter is actually it's chapter 2, Remembrance of Lord Krishna, and obviously this is the conversation with Vidura is asking Uddhava basically to describe about. Vidura is actually had gone on a pilgrimage after he was being. Remember when he was Duryodhana really insulted him so badly, and then he went out on a pilgrimage and he left off his bow and everything, and he left the house, and then he went off for a pilgrimage. And then on his return, then he tries to find out all the well-being of everybody who he left, and this is where he'll speak to Uddhava. That's how the conversation starts. So I would like some volunteers, please, if they can, to just you don't have to read the Sanskrit if you don't want, just read the English if that's okay. And just the translation and the purport will do, please, if that's okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Is it okay if I read Mataji? I'm okay to
Please.
read the Sanskrit.
Please.
I'll try my best, Mataji.
No worries, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Durbhago Batalo Yam Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasan Santo Navidur Harim Mina Ivu Evo Dupam. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji. This universe, with all its planets, is most unfortunate. And even more unfortunate are the members of the Yadu dynasty, because they could not identify Lord Hari as the personality of Godhead, and any more than the fish could identify the moon. Purport. Uddhava. Sorry, Mataji, I'm reading through my phone, so apologies for the delay.
No, don't worry.
Uddhava lamented for the unfortunate persons of the world who could not recognize Lord Sri Krishna in spite of seeing all his transcendental godly qualities. From the very beginning of his appearance within the prison bars of King Kamsa up to his Mosala Leela, although he exhibited his potencies as the personality of Godhead in the six opulences of wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, the foolish persons of the world could not understand that he was the Supreme Lord. Foolish persons might have thought him as extraordinary historic figure because they had no intimate touch with the Lord. But more unfortunate were the family members of the Lord, the members of the Yadu dynasty, who were always in company with the Lord, but were unable to recognize him as the supreme personality of Godhead. Uddhava lamented on his own fortune also because, although he knew Krishna to be the supreme personality of Godhead, he could not properly use the opportunity to render devotional service to the Lord. He regretted everyone's misfortune, including his own. The pure devotee of Lord thinks himself most unfortunate. This is due to excessive love for the Lord and is one of the transcendental perceptions of viraha, the suffering of separation. Do you want me to carry on, Mataji?
Yes, finish up that thing, Mataji. That's okay.
Yeah,
Then
okay.
I'll talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, Mataji. It is learned from the revealed scriptures that the moon was born from the milk ocean. There is a milk ocean in the upper planets, and there Lord Vishnu, who controls the heart of every living being as Paramatma, the super soul, resides as Shirodakshai Vishnu. Those who do not believe in the existence of the ocean of milk, because they have experience only of the salty water in the ocean, should know that the world is also called the go, which means the cow. The urine of cow is salty, and according to Ayurvedic medicine, the cow's urine is very effective in treating patients suffering from liver trouble. Such patients may not have any experience of the cow's milk, because milk is never given to liver patients. But the liver patient may know that the cow has milk also, although he has never tasted it. Similarly, men who have experience only of this tiny planet, where the saltwater ocean exists, may take information from the revealed scriptures. But there is also an ocean of milk, although we have never seen it. From this ocean of milk, the moon was born, but the fish in the milk ocean could not recognize that the moon was not another fish and was different from them. The fish took the moon to be one of them, or maybe something illuminating, but nothing more. The unfortunate persons who do not recognize Lord Sri Krishna are like such fish. They take him to be one of them, although a little extraordinary in opulence, strength, etc. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, sloka 11, confirms such foolish persons to be most unfortunate. Avajananti mam mudha manusim tanum asitram, sorry.
Ashritam.
Ashritam. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So beautifully recited. So this chapter, obviously, of here, I was trying to say like how Vidura is asking Uddhava everything about all what had happened, who is where, about everybody's whereabouts. But he's most interested in where Lord Krishna is. And this is here Uddhava is trying to say, Uddhava is actually, he's crying. He's crying. Why is he crying? He's crying at people like, how did none of us even, how did this common person couldn't even recognize this person, Lord Krishna? And they thought him to be like a normal person. and he was crying for the people or the family members of Krishna, of the Yadu dynasty, who just thought him to be just like another person with extraordinary qualities. That's all they thought, but they never thought like he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he was again lamenting for himself. Actually, he was feeling really, really sad, and that sadness because of separation from Lord Krishna, and that he has been so unfortunate that he could not serve Krishna. He could have served Krishna more, but he could not do that, and he has been separated from Lord Krishna. So obviously, Lord Krishna has given Uddhava instructions not to, to go to Badrikashram. So he had to leave Krishna and go, and that separation, which is actually making him feel very, very sad. And then he's also, Uddhava is also trying to say, how can I not recognize this person who is so effulgent? He's so good in all the 6 opulences, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who is rich with the person who has the maximum wealth, the strength, the fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, all the 6 qualities, which you can find only in Krishna. But a person who does not, who's ignorant will never understand the beauty. So the beauty of the diamond, they will think it to be a glass piece, In the similar way over here, people could not understand the importance of Krishna over there. They could not recognize. And the other thing we should also understand is that Krishna will only reveal to those people or show mercy to those people who he thinks are eligible, or who he thinks that who actually have unflinching faith in him. In them only will Krishna shower mercy. He will not give his mercy to each and every one. So this we have to understand that all these people did not have so much of, they are merciful because they are around associates of Krishna, but the fact that intelligence was not there for them to recognize that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Hare Krishna. And then again they compare that how. So from the scriptures, how it is revealed that from the ocean of the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, from Kshirodakshaya, the the moon comes out, from the Kshirosagar. But they are again Uddhava was trying to actually compare that the fish from the milk ocean does not recognize the moon of his special qualities. It thinks that, that moon has come from the same water where he is living. So he thinks that it is the same, except for some exceptional qualities. So fish is like all the ignorant people, all the Yadus and everybody. And the moon is obviously Krishna, so they couldn't recognize the special qualities of the moon. So this happens. Again, they try to say like how people who are used to, so they again, example of how a jaundiced patient will not know what is the pleasure of sweet, because obviously for him it will always taste bitter. And here they say, which the whole world is like a cow, and the urine is salty, so the salty ocean, that's where in the other part of the thing. But the cow also gives milk, so we do not, even though through the scriptures we know that the cow also gives milk, we know that by knowledge that the cow also gives milk and the cow also gives urine. The same way, by scriptures we should know that there's also a ocean of milk which is present, and we should accept it like that. And then Uddhava tries to say like how unfortunate people are, how unfortunate these people are that they were in the presence of the Lord and they still could not recognize his qualities. To the fact that even, how you will try to find out how Arjuna and all the Pandavas also will not recognize, they will only know when the Lord passes away, then only they will know the importance of the Lord. And then Yudhishthira, when Arjuna is been sent by Yudhishthira to go and see Krishna, then he doesn't come back for so many months, he doesn't come back, and Yudhishthira is panicking over here as to what has happened, and he's getting all these bad omens, everywhere, all wrong things are happening. And then when Arjuna comes from there, then he realizes that, then they realize that, oh my God, all these things had happened only because Krishna was there with them. They could fight the war, they were so powerful, they could, all the stories they had, pastimes, they could remember how Durvasa Muni came and with his all these devotees, and how they could feed with that one single morsel, how they could kill all these various warriors, and how they felt very powerful, how even Bhima could kill such powerful asuras and powerful people, and so also Arjuna could kill everyone. It is only by the mere presence of the Lord. So all of us, 100%, all of us feel that whenever we take things for granted, isn't it, so many times, and when the person is not there, and then you realize the importance of that person. This is how they're trying to explain, Uddhava was trying to explain the importance of Lord Krishna when he was there, because the only reason people could not understand him is because he's come in a mortal self. Like he was like any other ordinary person or any other ordinary, like one of them. So they didn't think anything more of him other than, because he did, even though he had so many pastimes where he showed his strength and his wealth and everything. As we say, even though Yadus were very clever, they're very intelligent people. They know that yes, he had special powers, but they didn't think anything beyond that. So this is what Uddhava is trying to say. And over here in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord himself only says like, avajananti ma mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhava majananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. So the Lord says, as fools deride me. So the fools, they don't even realize, they think that I'm some person, or when I descend in the human form, because I'm not in a special form, they do not think that I am the Lord. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. So this is what they're trying to. So you should always see the person not by the outside appearance. So we see so many of our friends, so many of our devotees, everybody, some people will come very pompously dressed. Some people will come very simple dressed, or some people will be, it doesn't matter what it is. What you have to understand is, what is that inner being, how is that person's heart? How is that the inner self of that person, the actual person you should know. So only a true devotee will actually recognize another devotee, recognize the Lord, because they have unflinching faith in the Lord and they can recognize them. So this is what here Uddhava is trying to tell, that he's really feeling sad and lamenting, because he thinks like, oh my God, how did we all lose this opportunity of not even able to recognize the Lordship and to serve the Lord? And that is why we are here. And why does the Lord come here to the earth? Is for such conditioned soul like us, so that we can go back to Godhead, to make us aware, so that we can go back to Godhead. So should we go to the next verse, please, if that's okay? Another volunteer, if that's okay, please. Any volunteers?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Okay, I'll read the English and the translation. Yeah?
No worries. Please go ahead.
The Yadus were all experienced devotees, learned and expert in psychic study. Over and above this, they were always with the Lord in all kinds of relaxations. And still, they were only able to know Him as the one supreme who dwells everywhere. In the Vedas, in the Vedas, it is said that the Supreme Lord or the Paramatma cannot be understood simply by the strength of one's erudition or power of mental speculation. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyona medaya nabahuna shrutena. Katha Upanishad 1:2-23. He can be known only by one who has the mercy of the Lord. The Yadavas were all exceptionally learned and experienced, but in spite of their knowing the Lord as the one who lives in everyone's heart, they could not understand that He is the original personality of Godhead. This lack of knowledge was not due to their insufficient erudition. It was due to their misfortune. In Vrindavan, however, the Lord was not even known as the Paramatma, because the residents of Vrindavan are pure, unconventional devotees of the Lord, and could only think of Him only as their object of love. They did not know that He is the personality of Godhead. The Yadus, or the residents of Dwarka, however, could know Lord Krishna as Vasudev, or the super soul living everywhere, but not as the Supreme Lord. As scholars of the Vedas, they verified the Vedic hymns, Ekodeva, Sarvabhuta Divashaha, Antaryami, and Rishinam, Paradevta. The Yadus therefore accepted Lord Krishna as the super soul incarnated in their family and not more than that. Haribol.
Thank you, Mataji. Haribol, very nicely recited. So you can see in this verse again, Uddhava is saying like how he's talking about the Yadus now. Yadus were all the dynasty from the Vrishni dynasty, basically everybody, all the Krishna's dynasty, basically, from that clan. And these Yadus are supposed to be very intelligent, very strong, very powerful people. And that's what they say over here. Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain this thing over here, that devotees, very experienced devotees, but they're very learned. They're quite intelligent people and expert in psychic studies, so they can understand each other even without even somebody talking, you know. Some people will only understand only when somebody opens their mouth, they will know how much intelligent that person is. But then if you see a person who, like your parents can know everything about you even without you talking, the same way your guru will know everything about you without even you speaking. The same way these people were quite expert, these Yadus, they were very powerful people. And plus also what was happening was they were intermingling every time with everything, morning, getting up, like how everybody getting up, brushing their teeth, going, taking a shower, eating, having breakfast, doing everything, how they could, all the normal activities. Others were doing in and out with Lord Krishna every time, every minute they were there with Krishna. But still they could not, you know, because they did not have that, they did not even think that he was the supreme personality of Godhead. Yes, they thought that yes, Krishna has some superpowers, and he's there. He's like the God who lives in every being, but is not the supreme personality of Godhead. So this is what over here they will try to say. So and also over here, what we have to say, it is Uddhava is trying to explain that this lack of knowledge is not because, so erudition is the very knowledgeable or very intelligent people. It's not because they're very knowledgeable, but it's only because they were not fortunate enough. So the fortune only comes with Lord's mercy. So Yadus were not fortunate enough to know about Lord Krishna, his original supreme personality of Godhead. However, Uddhava is going to try to explain is that in Vrindavana, this is a different situation altogether. In Vrindavana, the Lord is not even known as God at all, because they have they are over there. They have his pure devotees over there. They are not they're not like normal devotees. They're quite special devotees over there, and they could only think him as the object of love. So there is nothing. They don't think anything inferior at all. They think it's very, very superior. Their love is very. They think in the most highermost. The way of worship. So even though they didn't know he's the personality of Godhead, but still Lord had mercy on them. So therefore you could not fault the gopis over there. Whereas the Yadus, as we say, the residents of Dwaraka, they only knew Lord as Vasudeva, who is like as the Lord Vishnu, or the super soul, like Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is there in Paramatma and everywhere, but not as Lord Krishna himself. So they're trying to say from the Vedic hymns, they knew that God is Eko Deva, the Vedic hymns, Sarva Bhutadi Vasaha. So Eko Deva means only one God. Sarva Bhutadi Vasaha means they are living in every being. Antaryami again, as they're living inside everyone. And Vrishinam Paradevata. So Vrishinam is like all the descendants of Vrishni dynasty, which is Lord Krishna's clan. And Paradevata is the main important deity. So the Yadus, therefore, they accepted Lord Krishna, the super soul incarnate. So they thought like Krishna is like a super soul or the in the family, like a special, nothing more than that. They never thought as the supreme personality. So supreme personality Godhead is the most powerful everywhere. He's everywhere. So this is the unfortunate thing where Uddhava is trying to say that even though everybody were living with Lord Krishna, they could not recognize his divine qualities. So, okay, next verse, please. Anybody, any volunteers for next verse? Should I read them?
No, Hare Krishna Mataji, I'll do that.
Please, thank you.
Text 10. Devasya Maya Sprista Nechanyadastat Ashrita Brahmeti Dhirna Tat Vakye Atmane Utpatamano Harau. Now the translation. If Mataji, you can scroll it up, I will read it. Under no circumstances can the words of persons be bewildered by the illusory energy of the Lord, deviate the intelligence of those who are completely surrendered souls. Shall I read the purport, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Purport. Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to all the evidence of the Vedas. He is accepted by all acharyas, including Sripada Shankaracharya. But when he was present in the world, different classes of men accepted him differently, and therefore their calculations of the Lord were also different. Generally, persons who had faith in the revealed scriptures accepted the Lord as he is, and all of them merged into great bereavement when the Lord disappeared from the world. In the first canto, we have already discussed the lamentation of Arjuna and Yudhishthira, to whom the disappearances of Lord Krishna was almost intolerable up to the end of their lives. The Yadavas were only partially cognizant of the Lord, but they are also glorious because they had the opportunity to associate with the Lord, who acted as the head of their family, and they also rendered the Lord intimate service. The Yadvas and the other devotees of the Lord are different from those who wrongly calculated him to be an ordinary human personality. Such persons are certainly bewildered by the illusory energy. They are hellish and are envious of the Supreme Lord. The illusory energy acts very profoundly on them. Sorry, the adwords have come up on my thing. I'll just have to close this. Yeah, sorry about that. The illusory energy acts very powerfully on them because, in spite of their elevated mundane education, such persons are faithless and are infected by the mentality of atheism. They are always very eager to establish that Lord Krishna was an ordinary man who was killed by a hunter due to his many impious acts in plotting to kill the sons of Drishtra and Jarsandha, the demoniac kings of the earth. Such persons have no faith in the statement of Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is unaffected by the reactions of work, namam karmani limpanti, according to the atheistic. Mataji, please could you scroll it up? According to the atheistic point of view, Lord Krishna's family, the Yadu dynasty, was vanquished due to being cursed by the Brahmanas for the sins committed by Krishna in killing the sons of Dhritarashtra, etc. All these blasphemies do not touch the heart of the devotees of the Lord because they know perfectly well what is what. Their intelligence regarding the Lord is never disturbed. But those who are disturbed by the statements of the Asuras are also condemned. This is what Uddhava meant in this verse. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the citation. So that last verse, the Uddhava, what Uddhava meant by this verse was, so basically you have to be equipoised. That's what, and plus the devotee will always know, and whereas the non-devotee will always try to find faults, isn't it? They will never agree that because of the very, very bad vice they have. That is, and when somebody is envious, then they lose their whole clarity of the mind, and they will not think properly. I'm sure all of us have come in our life many situations where we are envious, then we become disadvantageous in that way because we could do more if we are not envious, So lots of, I'm sure by this, in the life, many situations would have come, and then when you look into it, you'll say, why did I behave like that? Is it because of my maybe we are envious of somebody else, or we're jealous of someone or something, and that's why it comes as a different emotion. They can become angry or irritable or something, which otherwise a person, a proper, real devotee would be very equipoised, will not show any reaction. So over here, when we go over here, Uddhava is trying to say that obviously Yadu dynasty, he was with them. They knew that he was he was the god, but again, he was trying to say is that everybody reacted to the Lord in a different way, depending upon the intelligence. So people who speculate, when they start speculating, then they will try to think, they will add their own maths, and they will try to derive to an answer. But what we have to understand is that we have to go by the scriptures. When we go by the scriptures, then there's no point of speculation. So there's no adulteration. So because of the way the atheists are always speculating, so they will never believe that Krishna is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They think him to be like an ordinary human being. And that is why they think that, oh, why did Krishna leave this, why was he cursed over here? Because obviously he's done so much of impious activities, all the Dhritarashtra's sons were killed, or Jarasanda's family, everything is gone. And that is why the Yadu dynasty has been cursed, and that is why Krishna has to go. That is why he's being punished for that. This is what they think. But a real devotee knows who Krishna is, and so he will, when atheist or a non-devotee says something wrong about Krishna, apparently what over here in the last verse they're trying to say is, if you get disturbed, then that means even then you can be condemned for that also. And so therefore we have to be, because that means you don't have enough faith in your Lord. That's what I understood over here, the meaning over here. And plus in this verse also they try to explain of how when generally persons who had faith in the revealed scriptures, they accept the Lord as he is, and all of them are, because when they accept that how this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and when he is actually leaving and going from this world, all of them start grieving. They feel very sad, and they become very, very, because of the separation from the Lord. So that is the real devotee. So this has happened with Arjuna and Yudhishthira, as I was trying to say. When they came to know that Lord Krishna has departed from the world, they felt like it's no use of us living here. And then they started preparing for the last journey. So then Yudhishthira started making arrangements of the thing, where he started thinking how he'll become detached from this material world. And then he gives the kingdom to his grandchildren, and all of them will start preparing for the last journey. So they start becoming detached, because they lose. This is how you will feel when you have an attachment to the Lord. Then you feel, because of separation, you can't feel like living alone. And this is where they could not tolerate the departure of Krishna. And that's why they decided, okay, there's no point of us being here, and then they will start their last journey to go. And over here also, we have to understand that the people who are atheists or a non-devotee, they always establish that Krishna was an ordinary man, and who was killed by a hunter. And whereas that Krishna is transcendental. He never was like an ordinary person, and he was never killed like an ordinary person. It was all his leelas which has been done. And we say over here, so he says, persons who have no faith in the statement of the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is unaffected by the reactions of work, so people who are atheists will never even believe that Lord is never unaffected. He thinks, because they come in the form of a body, they think that the same flesh. They don't know that the body is transcendental. They think that it is just flesh and bones. And but over here, when you look at all his pastimes, There are pastimes where he will act very mortal, very normal human beings, And then obviously there are pastimes where he shows his Lord Krishna shows his super strength and his real mercy with all the demons they fought, and then also Krishna gives the opportunities to other of his to Balrama and to other devotees to show their power, and to in his association they also get the power. So the next verse, please. Any volunteers? I'm sure somebody can read.
Shall I?
Please, Mataji, thank you.
Yeah. Padashya tapta tapasam advitripritadrishyam nirnam adayantar abdhadyastu swabimbam loka lochanam. Can you move it up, please, Mata? Are you able to move it up, please? Haribol. Translation. Lord Sri Krishna, who manifested his eternal form before the vision of all on the earth, performed his disappearance by removing his form from the sight of those who were unable to see him as he is due to not executing required penance. Purport. In the verse, the word Avitripyadrisham is most significant. The conditioned souls in the material world are all trying to satisfy their senses in various ways, but they have failed to do so because it is impossible to be satisfied by such efforts. The example of the fish on land is very appropriate. If one takes a fish from the water and puts it on the land, it cannot be made happy, but by any amount of offered pleasure. The spirit soul can be happy only in the association of the supreme living being, the personality of Godhead, and nowhere else. The Lord, by his unlimited causeless mercy, has innumerable Vaikuntha planets in the Brahmajyoti sphere of the spiritual world. And in the transcendental world, there is an unlimited arrangement for the unlimited pleasure of the living entities. The Lord himself comes to display his transcendental pastimes, typically represented at Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. He appears just to attract the conditioned souls back to Godhead, back home to the eternal world. But for some, for want of sufficient piety, the onlookers are not attracted by such pastimes of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that only those who have completely surpassed the way of sinful reaction can engage themselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The entire Vedic way of ritualistic performances is to put every conditioned soul on the path of piety. Can you move it up, please, Mata? A little lower down, please. Okay, cheers. By strict adherence to the prescribed principles for all orders of social life, one can attain the qualities of truthfulness, control of the mind, control of the senses, forbearance, etc., and can be elevated to the plane of rendering pure devotional service to the Lord. Only by such a transcendental vision are one's material hankerings fully satisfied. When the Lord was present, persons who were able to satisfy their material hankerings by seeing him in true perspective were thus able to go back with him to his kingdom. But those persons who were unable to see the Lord as he is remained attached to the material hankerings and were not able to go back home, back to Godhead. When the Lord passed beyond the vision of all, he did so in his original eternal form, as stated in the verse. The Lord left in his own body. He did not leave his body as generally misunderstood by the conditioned souls. This statement defeats the false propaganda of the faithless non-devotee that the Lord passed away like an ordinary conditioned soul. The Lord appears in order to release the world from the undue burden of the non-believing asuras. And after doing this, he disappeared from the world's eyes. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Beautifully read. So in this verse, so Uddhava is trying to say that how Lord Sri Krishna, who manifested in his eternal form before the vision of all on the earth, performed his disappearance by removing his form from the sight of those who were unable to see him as he is due to not executing required penance. So this is such an important thing. So the Lord can only reveal to those people who obviously they have to be purified in so many ways. So how we attain that penance is by doing your devotional service regularly. So in this word, the avitripta drisham, which we say, the vision, without fulfillment of vision. So the way how the Lord disappears from this world, that only some people can see it, not everyone. And over here, the conditioned souls, all we are. Actually, the Lord comes. Why does the Lord come? As we said before, is to so that we can get a glance of the Lord, and then we can be liberated in a way, and then we can go back to Godhead and not be in this material world where we are attached to all these mundane things which we don't even take with us at all. I don't know why we get all attached to all these mundane things. Then it is just like how God tries to tell how we human beings, we have to know what is our constitutional position, and our position is to be with the Lord. So we are supposed to go back to the Godhead. That is where we are supposed to live. That is our main abode. That is where you can live happily, Satchitananda. You can be really very happy. They give an example of how a fish is supposed to live in the water. Imagine if you can take out the fish and put it in the land, it will suffocate and it will basically die in a way. And they say how much ever you try to please it, it will not be happy. So we are in this material world, which is not the right place. So we are like the fish out of water. So the water is in Goloka, so we have to be there. But we are the fish, so we are trying to chatpatana. We're just literally getting, what do you say, the English word? Literally beating ourselves up, So the fish is not getting enough air, and that is where it's beating. The same way we are over here, not getting the right air, and that is why to get back into that water, to get back the right air. So we have to go through this penances. So how it has been taught. So we have to go through these regulative principles which we do, and that is for us to get into that habit. So when we get into that habit, and you know how to do your chanting, your regulative principles, by that you get cleansed, and because of that, then your realization opens up, and then that is when you go into the right path. So this is where they're trying to say like how, and also over here Uddhava is trying to say like how we are the spirit soul. We can be happy with our associates, our associates. That is in the association of supreme living beings, where in the Vaikuntha planet. So supreme living being, the personality of Godhead, and nowhere else. So now they try to say that the Lord also has lots of Vaikuntha planets in the Brahma Jyoti, and there is lots of arrangement over there, unlimited pleasure. So you can enjoy over there. And the Lord comes over here to show his pastimes. And where does it? Mostly in the Vrindavana, Mathura, and Dwarka. So the same, how we know that how this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So the spiritual world also we have Goloka, Vrindavana, Mathura, and Dwarka, these three places, the same way as we have it in the material world. But that is the original one. So the God actually comes here to display his pastimes, and as we say, for us, so that we can get attracted to the Lord and then go back to Godhead. So how can so in Bhagavad Gita, what they say is that only those who have completely surpassed the way of sinful reaction. So how by engaging ourselves in this loving service of the Lord, then only we can, our sins can be washed away slowly. So that is why with this, how in the Vedas they teach us to do this ritualistic performances. By doing that, then you can go into the path of where you can go into a pious path. And we have to strictly adhering, then all these hankerings will slowly go away. So when the Lord was there, then people, instead of being attached to the Lord, they become attached to the material things. So those people who were attached to the Lord and doing devotional service and having hankerings for the Lord, they are the ones who can go back to Godhead. But the ones who were hankering for this material pleasures, they stayed back. They could not go. So this is where the Lord passed beyond the vision of all. So for the devotee, the Lord could be seen in his original form, and leaves the body in his original form. Whereas for a non-devotee, they think that he's like a normal human being, and then, but this is where they misunderstand, that Lord is not, they think the Lord is full of flesh and bones. Over here, what they say is Krishna obviously came here when all the when the Kurukshetra war, when all the soldiers died, that time Krishna obviously took away most of the burden from this earth, but then there was still burden left in there was still burden left in the Yadu dynasty. And obviously all the pastimes, that how that Mausala Leela, where all the Yadus will be, they'll go to this ashram, and the Muni, I think it is Ashtavakra Muni or something of there, they will try to put a club, metal club in their womb. One of the Yadus will act like a pregnant person, and they'll try to put this club in his belly and trap it up, and they'll try to ask the sage to tell the sex of the baby, and then he will curse that because he has been literally ridiculed over there, saying that they're testing his spiritual powers, and then he will curse that particular thing will bring the destruction of your vamsa, of your dynasty. And then all the others will get very scared, and then they will try to literally break that spear into they grind it down so much that it becomes like a powder, and then they will try to throw it into the water, and the small piece remain. They can't grind it anymore, and that small piece will be actually eaten by a fish, and then the fish will be caught by Jada, and then he finds that small spear, a small metal thing in the belly of the fish, and then they'll try to make an arrow out of it, arrowhead. And that arrowhead, when Krishna will be lying the banks of the river Saraswati, under a young banyan tree, just relaxing over there, peacefully, without any opulences over there, like all his the richness in the palace. So just simple in the jungle. Then he'll be mistaken for a deer, and then obviously Jara will try to the arrow goes and hits the Krishna's heel, and all the powder which is there, that they grow into these bamboo spines, the bamboo sticks. So all these, then Krishna obviously leaves the time in his transcendental form, but after him, then what happens? All the Yadus, they all become really they become very powerful, and then they start. I think they go to where festivities, and then they all get so much drunk, and then once they get drunk, they start saying harsh words to each other, and then the tolerance goes, and then they take these same bamboos from the dust, with the iron club dust, the bamboos had come, and they start fighting with each other and they kill each other, and that is how their dynasty comes to an end. But over here, that is also all Krishna's Leela of how he's tried to, and obviously all these Yadus and all of them are real associates of the Lord. Everybody who's in Kurukshetra, who's in Brajadhama, all of them, obviously the Lord doesn't come alone. He comes with his whole paraphernalia to this earth. That's how they have come. In every incarnation, they always come with their paraphernalia. So all the associates of the Lord are, they are the most esteemed devotees who come along with the Lord. So that is how over here. Then Uddhava actually, then he feels really, he will be telling all this to Vidura, and then he says like he was there before the Lord, before the arrow goes. I think. And Uddhava will be sitting and listening, and then Maitreya Muni also comes over there and listens over there. And then before Krishna departs from this material world, he will tell Uddhava to go to Badrikashram. But even though Uddhava didn't want to go, but he will follow Lord Krishna's advice, and he will go to Badrikashram, so that you can ask like why all the Yadus are gone, but why Uddhava was left, So Uddhava was left so that he could preach all the pastimes of the Lord to the world. So that is where we end up here today. So if please forgive me for my mistakes, and please fill in for any things which I have missed. If the floor is open for any questions, any corrections, please help me. Hare Krishna. I don't know whether Shailesh Prabhu had anything to offer. Anybody else?
Mataji, Hare Krishna, Madhavan Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Mataji, as always, very nicely explained, Mataji. It was all very clear. I just had a bit of a reflection and a question, Mataji. So, Mataji, you said that, Krishna reveals in itself, and everything opens up to us. And obviously, the people who are, for example, fortunate, the way it was explained, does that mean that the people who, don't want to use this word, but who don't understand, which I'll be very honest, even that includes probably my own family. When does it mean we should not tell them more often about Krishna? Because then
No.
you also don't want them to disrespect Krishna, because they just don't get it. As in, don't get it in the sense they're not on the same path or the same journey. And sometimes it's a bit like you don't want them to be disrespectful. Not talking just pure my family, but immediate family as well. Or you
Sometimes
should, if they are.
Sometimes I feel, Mataji,
Mataji.
I can understand what you're trying to say, because not everybody is in the same path, the same level as you. And that is why you feel like maybe, but as long as they don't say anything, and you don't get affected or reacted by it, the main thing is you want to transform them. And I think by hearing Krishna's name all the time, they will be transformed, unless they say something that sometimes you feel like you can't bear it, then you have, because you're not able to control your emotions, then you can walk out from there. But otherwise, I think you being a devotee over there, for me, you are the reliever of 7 generations before and 7 generations afterwards. So you should try a level best to tell about Krishna as much as possible. They might not hear, but this time, at least you have sowed the seed now. Yeah. And maybe in the next life, they might, because of whatever they've heard now from you, might help them in the next life to start at a better position than not hearing about Krishna at all. So this is my experience. So I think when you look at all these people of when they go for this Sankirtan, but book distribution, you will see how all of them, everybody's house they go, and they try to knock, but sometimes you can just get a big bang on the door. But doesn't mean that the person will not stop going to the next house, So I think we should persevere in doing it, and as long as you feel okay with it, you should not feel reactive to it. And this is what we are, human beings. We are still materialistic. But maybe the format which you're telling, maybe they're not understanding. Maybe change the format. Or first of all, I always remember that last time also I did say we should know what is the intelligence of that person in front of you, and depending upon the intelligence, you should try to speak to them in that way. Like with a child, we have to sit down, we have to go to their level and then talk to them. But with an elder person, then obviously it will be a different level. So with your family, I'm sure things will change, Mataji. You just do japa and you put, Srila Prabhupada's Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, that mantra, that will bring the vibrations. This is what I believe. And the vibrations will change everything. You will see.
Haribol. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I hope I was able to make you.
Yes,
I hope I
Mataji.
gave the right way, or did I, Mataji?
No,
Somebody
it's very
can.
clear, Mataji. Very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no questions, yes, Prabhu. Somebody is trying to say something. So if there are no questions, then should we end the session today?
Hi, Krishna Mataji. And I'm sorry, I was doing service when you called my name. I wasn't able to respond. Thank you for
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Or glory to Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, I always will disturb you during your services.
No, just a quick for Namaranta Mataji's question there. So Srila Prabhupada's formula is that those that are interested, we talk more about devotional services and Krishna. Those who are neutral, we introduce them very slowly to the concept of the Supreme. And those who are atheistic or may blaspheme Krishna, we do not preach to, but we give them prasadam. Because a prasadam in itself will help purify their thought and consciousness for a later point in their either life or a later life itself. It will then benefit them to come to some sort of realization.
So prasadam is the main thing.
Yeah, but as you rightly say, a devotee in the house has the potency of delivering, actually not 7 generations, but Prahlad Maharaj was given the benediction of 21 generations on each side.
Oh, each side 21. Okay, I thought it was 7. Okay.
21.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
So should we end the prayers, Mataji and Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay.
Very nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Vancha
Kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha
Patitanam
patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Anantakoti
Krishna.
Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.